Yo, what is good, people? Ben from Novel Tech, and we are back with another camera comparison, and this time Z Fold 4 versus the S22 Plus. Finally, we get the upgrades that we have been looking forward to on the camera hardware for the foldables, and we're going to test it in daylight and low light for photos and videos to see finally is it up to scratch and on par with the S series, especially with the chipset differences as well. So yeah, sit back, relax, it's going to be a good one. A quick rundown of the camera hardware specs for both these devices, as they are pretty much nearly identical. They both are using a 12 megapixel ultra wide, near enough the same 50 megapixel main sensor, and pretty much the same 3x optical zoom that does zoom up to 30x digital. You do have 10 megapixels for the selfie on the cover display, as well as the selfie on the S22 Plus. So with that out of the way, full description of the specs for the camera will be in the description. Let's get into the main camera test. So we're starting with the front facing camera, 4K UHD 60 frames a second, image quality, stabilization, and also color rendition as well. Quick run. So we've gone over to 4K 30 frames a second on the selfie camera. Again, seeing how the image quality, stabilization, and the dynamic range looks like. We are now in video portrait mode, only limited to 1080p 30 frames a second, and we should be able to get stabilization on both compared to the previous S21 series models, but with a slight crop. But we'll check it out after. You can let us know how it looks. So we're on the rear facing cameras now, 4K UHD 30 frames a second, and this is literally the best mix of resolution and frame rate, as you have maximum flexibility on all you can do with both these cameras. So on the main lens now, quick run. And what you can do is switch to the ultra wide, see how the image quality looks like. We're going to take a quick run. I'm going to come back to the main. Now, 3x zoom. And this is one of the best things about you can pretty much flip it without the need to stop recording at all. And you've got the option to take pictures, pause it, and continue recording. Still one of the most seamless video shooting experiences on a smartphone. Now that comes over to the Fold 4. Now we are in 4K UHD 60 frames a second on the main camera. Again, the experience is less seamless in 4K 60. Quick run. So this is one advantage that the S22 Plus does have. When you pause recording, you can switch to the ultra wide and record in 4K 60 frames a second. You can't do that on the Fold 4 at the moment. When I say at the moment, I'm going to reference today's date at the time of this recording, which is the 18th of August 2022, Thursday morning, UK time, 10:15 a.m. This might change, but for now, you cannot record 4K 60 frames a second on the ultra wide. Quick run. All right, we do have 4K 60 frames a second on the 3x telephoto zoom. So I just wanted to demonstrate it. We won't do a run for this one because it's really zoomed in. Again, this is now 4K 30 frames a second on the rear camera, on the main camera lens. Again, we're just seeing how it looks when we do have a subject in frame. Same recording resolution and frame rate, and we've switched over to the ultra wide camera lenses. So we're in 4K UHD 60 frames a second. Just want to see if there's any image quality changes or any changes at all when you have a subject in the frame. This is on the main sensor. So we are now in video portrait mode on the main camera lens on the rear. Now the Z Fold 4 does have the same 50 megapixel sensor. We do now have 8K 24 frames a second video recording. Very niche, very specialized, and you can question the usability, but at least it does have it on par with the S22 Plus. So nighttime video, 4K 30 frames a second on both the main camera on the Z Fold 4 as well as the S22 Plus. Gonna stop, switch to the ultra wide. Back to the main. We have low light video on the outer cover display Selfie on the Fold 4, as well as the Selfie on the S22 Plus, 4K 30. Let's kick things off with the rear cameras, starting with landscape photos. When looking at the ultra wide, the Z Fold 4 does have better shadow detail and a more vibrant image, but the Galaxy S22 Plus looks to have a sharper image overall. When moving to the main sensor, things stay consistent from the ultra wide, but with equal sharpness on both phones. The 3x zoom shows the same result in sharpness and detail, with the Z Fold 4 producing a more vibrant image. When pushing into the extended space zoom range at 10x and 30x, both perform the same. The last set of landscape shots from the ultra wide to the extended zoom shows the same consistent results, with the Fold 4 producing a more vibrant image with more shadow detail. The S22 Plus, on the other hand, produces a sharper image overall, especially when you consider the performance of the ultra wide camera. Although both produce great front-facing selfie photos, I overall prefer the results from the S22 Plus, even when moving over to portrait mode. For the last set of daytime photos, things take a swing back and forth. When looking at the ultra-wide, I personally feel the S22 Plus pulls ahead with a better overall image, even though the Fold 4 is more vibrant. When moving over to the main sensor, the Fold 4 image is much more preferred with better skin tones. The portrait mode at 1x is equally good on both, with a slight preference towards the Fold 4, and then things even out to look the same at the 3x portrait zoom mode, with slightly better performance on the S22 Plus in terms of background blur. Let's move over to nighttime photos, and starting with the ultra wide, and by far the S22 Plus is the much better camera when in the standard mode and not using night mode on the ultra wide camera. Things come back to a much better place when switching to the main wide sensor, with the Fold 4 producing a slightly warmer tone. Zoom does look better processed and cleaner on the Fold 4 as well. This extreme low light situation is extremely difficult on both phones, with a slightly brighter image on the wide sensor on the S22 Plus. The difference maker is night mode, with a cleaner image on the ultra wide and more noise on the Fold 4, and also an equal look to both phones in the main wide sensor with night mode, bar a warmer tone on the Z Fold 4. For low light selfies, I captured without night mode, with night mode, and then with front screen flash, and then did the same with portrait mode as well. Take a look at the results and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Last set of low light photos, and this time with the rear camera and me as the subject, you can see that both ultra wide struggle and really need night mode for the images to become usable. When moving over to the main wide sensor, there seems to be more noise on the S22 Plus compared to the Fold 4, which has a much cleaner look. Night mode looks to work good on both, with what looks like a slightly better detail overall on the Fold 4. Let's conclude with the video performance, and starting with the selfie. As good as both are, as they do record the same resolution and frame rates, I do prefer the overall colors, especially when it comes to skin tones on the S22 Plus selfie. Apart from that, detail and sharpness are all good on both with excellent stabilization, including even in video portrait mode. Things change around when moving over to the rear cameras for video, because in fact, when I'm actually in the frame as a subject, I much prefer the look of video from the Z Fold 4 with better colors and skin tones. It is good to see that we do have 8K 24 frames a second, that it has been added to the Fold 4 thanks to having the same 50 megapixel sensor as the S22 Plus. But the biggest downside to the Fold 4 is the lack of 4K UHD 60 frames a second video recording on the ultra wide, which is something you can do on the S22 Plus. Apart from that, they are both on par with the same shooting modes. Low light video on the rear cameras on both are the same, and as always, it's highly recommended to stick to the main wide sensor rather than the ultra wide when shooting video in low light. For low light video selfie, there is more noise on the Fold 4 with the S22 Plus having a cleaner image, but the difference here is nothing to write home about, as personally, both are not that usable. Microphone audio performance is excellent on both and performs to my ears pretty much the same. That is it with this ultimate camera comparison between the Z Fold 4 and the S22 Plus. Let me know your thoughts on the results, if you're surprised or is actually what you were expecting. That's it for me, Ben from Lover of Tech. If you enjoy videos like this, you know exactly what to do. Hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're part of Team TLS, the Tech Lover Squad, so you don't miss any future videos on the channel. I hope you're all safe during this time. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.